Patsy, thanks very much for coming into us for a chat.
Well, that's fine, yeah. No bother at all.
Were you ever in this spot before?
I was spent many good day and many good night here, many years ago. This was a favourite pub of mine. It was a great section pub.
Yeah. Any memories of anybody you played with in here or
funny enough, last time I was down here, we was sitting down here, we was tuning with Noel Hill, and there was musicians there, I forget, some fiddle players. But yeah, we had great memories in here over the years, going back now a long time, over 30 years. Yeah. Often played in here with Mac the McAways now, Catherine and all, should be a good friend of mine, and all that crew. Yeah.
And so you might just tell us a bit about your own background and early kind of exposure to traditional music. So you're from?
From back in the Glanton Hills, like West Limerick, back at Temple Glanton, yeah. I was born in a place called Sugar Hill. And we grew up there, and there was lots of music around there that time. And people like Patsy Moloney and Paddy Herden and Murphys, Scanlons, there was loads of them, Donald Labarra, and you could go on and on and on.
And was there a dominant instrument in the area, or was there a mixture of instruments?
It was mixed now. It was, yeah, I'd say probably fiddles and flutes would be up there, you know. And of course, the banjo is fairly strong too in Limerick. But yeah, and the accordion, everything. But now there's a host of fine young musicians, flutes, concertinas, pipes, you name it. That's it, yeah.
And was there music in your family?
It was, yeah, with the music in. Both my father played and my mother played. My mother played the fiddle and the accordion, and my father played the fiddle, and I played a bit on the flute as well. And the grandparents before, they were musicians as well, on both sides, the Moloney side and the O'Donoghue side.
So yeah, just what was your mum's full name?
Catherine Moloney, Kay, we call her Kay Moloney. And luckily enough, thanks be God, I've still got her. And she'll be 98 on the 1st of November. And she's razor sharp. She's still telling me what to do. And I love it.
And so Kay Moloney, but O'Donoghue maiden
She
name.
her maiden name is O'Donoghue, yeah.
And your dad's name was?
Tom Moloney.
Tom Moloney.
Yeah.
And so you remember your grandparents also played?
They played as well, yeah. The concertinas, and there was flutes and pipes, and my uncles in America, and my father's side, the Maloneys, they played as well, the flutes and the accordions. And they're not long gone, they live to be a big age, so.
Signs are looking good for you, so?
Well, no, I don't know about that, but sure, if I get a couple of more seasons out of it, I'll be happy.
And would there,
we never know, like, yeah.
Never know, yeah. Was there, so with your parents playing, your grandparents playing, and extended family members, was there music in the house?
That's exactly where I got the music. It was, I'd say, night and day. At every chance we got, there was music going, and we got a lot of neighbours used to be coming in then. And you had like the Kellys and the Mulvey Hills and all that crowd, and our house was a kind of a call-in for a mug of tea and a tune. And that were the lovely, nice early memories. And we had lots of people. There used to be a little travelling man used to come in every couple of months as well, little man, Tommy O'Connor. We used to call him Tommy the Piper. And he was a lovely man, and every time he came, he brought a tune with him. And they're nice memories. Then you'd pick up a tune from him, and from that's how it was, you know.
And so, was he a traveller?
He was, yeah. But he'd always stay around then for the few days and few nights, and he'd move on then again. But he was a lovely man, and he had a lovely style, a very unique style. Whistle and pipes. Yeah.
What kind of era would that have been? Would they be?
That would have been the 60s. Yeah.
Tom O'Connor.
He was a young little lad. Tommy, we used to call him Tommy the Piper, but his name was Tommy O'Connor. Yeah. He came from somewhere down that area around West Limerick side.
And what instrument did you start on?
I started on the Cloxton whistle, like a lot of people before me. It was a valuable instrument at the time. It was a great starter. And then I went on, and my father bought me a little black dot horner, I think it was. And I was playing that then as well, and I was getting lessons in that from my own cousins, the Moloneys as well, Lee Moloney, Patsy Moloney. They were pretty famous down there as well, for their own band music and all. And I was dabbling with that, but then one day I was coming in and there was a couple of flute players in the house, and I heard the sound of the concert flute coming out, and I said, that's it. That's what I want. It caught me there. Yeah. Sound the flute, and that was it, and I'm still at it.
Good stuff.
Still doing a bit, yeah.
And how did you go about learning the flute? Did you get lessons, or did you just go
No,
after yourself?
it was natural. We were lucky enough because I said my granduncle as well, he was a flute player, Dan Moloney, he was a stonemason, and he was a flute player as well. And between everybody, we getting little touches here and there, and the tunes. And at that age, every young child, you're like a sponge. You hear a tune and you'd have it off like that. Now it would take me a lot longer. But that was the way it was, and there wasn't any recorders or nothing. Just played in the house, and Piggy you'd learn the tune from whoever came in, and that was it, yeah. Yeah.
And so when you were growing up, Temple Glanton is kind of there, it's on the kind of border area, kind of like where Meach leave Lucre, but you were saying...
Yeah, you'd be kind of in the border there, like of Kerry, Cork and West Limerick, yeah. But yeah, I never seem to go back that far now. That'd be back around probably Brushing, as you say, but Slieve Lucre area. I'd feel like wouldn't be that far from me, the town. So yeah, you had a lot of that, but we seem to be stuck on the reels and jigs nearly all the time, you know.
Yeah, would you know that there were musicians around not too far from you that had a different repertoire than?
Oh God, I would say so. Yeah, from different parts, but you get, there's a lot of them play some beautiful slides that I don't have, but there are some lovely tunes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And
yeah.
Kind of close by. It was kind of like almost two different.
But I'd have enough to keep going with, you know. But there are some young lads, I've often heard them playing, they could play like that all night, you know, loads of them, like.
And you mentioned Mulvihil's, would that be that you were...
That would be Martin now, and Brendan, my good friend. I'll be meeting Brendan when I go down. He comes back from the States every summer, and we have some great sessions, and I hope to meet up with him next week. And we usually go off into Newcastle West or somewhere and have a nice session, or back in the house, you know. Bob Brendan's a fine player, yeah.
So, what age were you when you left Limerick?
Around 17 and a half, yeah.
And where did you head first?
I headed for Manchester then. I got a bit of work in Manchester, and I stayed there for a while, and then I headed to Kilburn in London. And met some lovely people down there, all Raymond Rowland, Roger Sherlock, Paddy Taylor, all them boys. I could go on naming them for 2 hours. And sadly, a lot of them have passed away now too, God rest them, yeah. And then I headed up to Birmingham. I got a job, followed the work, I suppose. So I'm based in Birmingham now for many years, but I spent about 4, 5, 6 months here in Limerick and Clare, you know.
And when you first went to Manchester, was there any connection there, a family or friends? Or was
yeah, I had friends there from Limerick, and my sister, my oldest sister Margaret, was there, and that's where I went. So there was a connection there. I had a number of to call to, yeah.
And what was the music? Was there much music in Manchester?
There was a lot of good music.
Who was there when you went
There'd be a good friend of mine there now. There's lots and lots. The Carberries now would be named that were there. Like Peter now, his father. I think, I never see Peter anywhere, but they were a musical family. And you had Tony Howley. Tony, I don't know if you knew Tony.
Yeah.
Another flute player, a Sligo man, and a lovely man. But there was loads of musicians, and a Sunday afternoon we'd meet up and go on the pub, the Shakespeare in Stretford Road. And there'd be a host of musicians from all over, 32 counties.
And did you know Desi Donnelly?
I did, and the brother, yeah, the fiddle players, I think they were Tyrone, were they?
Tyrone, I think,
up that way anyway. Yeah, I did. I knew them. Yeah.
Mm.
And of course, young Desi there. I call him Young Desi. He's still around.
Yeah.
A fine musician as well. Yeah. There was a host of them around there, but London was bubbling at the time. But
Yeah. So, like, how would you compare? Was there like when you went from Manchester down to London?
To London.
Was there different, any kind of different style? What the people in Manchester were playing and what were playing in London, or?
That's a great question now, actually. But to me, it was our music, and no matter who played it and what instrument, you'd feel something coming across from. You could actually nearly tell the areas that time. You could say Limerick man, Galway man, Sligo man, Clare. There was a bit of a flavour in the tunes, and you could tell nearly where they came from, or which was lovely. But there was a great host of musicians around there, and of course Birmingham, another crowd of musicians from everywhere.
Were you working in? What were you working at over in London?
I worked as a joiner, a carpenter, like shop fitting and all that, all my life.
There's a lot of musicians kind of working in those
yeah,
kind of trades.
and I made, funny enough, I met a lot of musicians, flute players, pipers, and they were nearly all carpenters for some reason. But yeah, it was lovely. A nice journey anyway along the way,
You were working with the hands by day and working with the hands by night as well.
Exactly. So you kept both going. Both going, yeah.
So you headed over to England when you were about 17 and a half, and so your style on the flute, would you say, was it set by the time you went over to England, or would you say that was it influenced by any musicians you met when you
I'd say I had a bit of both. I would have had my own I was playing the flute from, as I said, the clock's flute when I was 6 or 7. Then I started playing the concert flute when I was about 9 or something, 8 or 9 anyway. But yeah, I wouldn't have the repertoires I got when I met the lads then from different places. You'd hear another reel and the style of it, or a jig or whatever, and it kind of all came then together in a package, But I would have had my own, obviously, before I left.
Yeah.
But I think meeting other musicians is a great help as well, from different counties, as I said, from the 32 counties of Ireland.
Yeah. And in London, there would have been people like Roger Sherlock and Gabriel McArdle as well.
Oh, the McCarthy's, Roger Sherlock, all, yeah.
Yeah.
Roger was a good man, a fine flute player.
Would you ever get into conversations with people like Gabriel, what was it? Gabe O'Sullivan, sorry.
Yeah, he was
Roger.
A flute player, yeah. Gabe was Gabe.
He was in London, yeah.
He was in London, that's right. Yeah, I met him, I met Gabe as well. And a nice style as well, a different style again. That's what I'm talking about. Nearly every county man had his own little flavour. Everyone had something to offer.
Would you ever hear somebody doing something you're like, that was nice now?
Exactly, you'd always hear something nice. No matter who's playing, how good or how bad he is, he'll do something in that tune that's nice. Yeah, there's always something nice come out, yeah.
And did you put the honer to one side, or did you ever play it, or do you still ever play it these days, the honer, the box, or did you kind of...
Not time, yeah. Yeah, and I dabble a bit in the concertina as well, but Rosie is my girl, that's what I like, the flute, yeah.
Rosie, is that your name?
I call her Rosie because it's a Rudel and Rose flute, so I call her Rosie, my Rosie, yeah.
How did you get your hands on her?
Oh, many years ago, handed down, yeah.
Who had it before you?
No, that's a good question. And it was the man that made it would be more important, but it was made in about 1834 or 1835. So I'd love to have met that man.
They're lovely flutes, even though they're so old, they're hard bet, aren't they?
I think so, yeah. I think they're the cream, They speak to you every time you take them out the case, they speak to you, and that's important. Yeah.
And so then you went up to Birmingham. Who was up in Birmingham then?
Maybe I should play with a lad there, Leo Gorman, accordion player, Dan Brennan, fiddle player, Limerick man, and Sean Lynch, another West Limerick man, fiddle player. And then you had lads from Roscommon, the likes of Frank Jordan, a good friend of mine, which sadly has passed away as well. Paddy Ryan, the fiddle man, he was there for a long time. The Lorries, they were a big name in Birmingham, and they had a great house. They'd invite you to the house for the music and that. But they were a big influence as well. There was hundreds of fine musicians there. Yeah.
And as you travel around, like Manchester, London, and Birmingham, and back in Limerick, were you involved with Coltis? Did you ever compete in competitions or any?
I did. I used to be involved in the Coltis and competitions in the 70s. And in 77 in Innis, I was lucky enough to win the All Ireland in the concert flute, which was a great honour. I was a very happy man in that. So I've good memories of Innis and Clare. Yeah, that's 77. It's a long time now, isn't it?
It's a while ago. Can you remember who else was in the competition that year?
I do actually, because there was a recall to make it a little bit tougher. But anyway, look, the great man himself, Michael Flatley, and I think Mick Gavin, Dublin. So we were called back up again. And so we went up playing anyway. The judicators, I can't remember them all, but I'm sure there was John Lee, and I'd say maybe Seamus Tansey, and definitely Seamus McMahon. But when I started playing the jig, and I played the horn pipe, but then when I started playing the reel, and in fact it was one of Mulhair's reels, which was a lovely tune, and I still love the tune. But as I was playing it, they were all tapping the floor, and they were tapping in different timings, you know, as I thought anyway. So I had my own rhythm set, but I thought they weren't with me. So I stopped in the middle of the reel, and I asked them if you wouldn't mind tapping the floor. So my mother and father and all my family was in the room. Oh my God, that's it, it's gone, it's all over, it's all over. But thank God it didn't affect the result anyway. But I thought after I was a bit cheeky to do that. But anyway, I stopped them, and they did stop, fair play. And I carried on with my job then, and I felt happier then. But it's funny, even if I was playing here now and you're doing different timings, everyone have their own rhythm, and you can be put off slightly, you know. Especially on a wooden stage, and if there is 2 of 6 legs going, you know. So that was one of the funny stories as well in my time. But my parents were there and they said, oh, he's blown it now, it's gone, you know. But yeah, look, it worked out fine in the end, you know.
Oh yeah, well they might have respected that your musical sense that...
Well, actually they might, and you know, I didn't think about that. You have a good point there. Maybe so, yeah. I never thought about that, yeah.
You kept them all in line that day anyway,
Well,
Flatley and McMahon and...
Put manners in them.
Flatley was probably tapping away as well.
Yeah, tapping away. Oh, God bless them all, that's what I say. Look, it's a lovely journey all the way through the music, and meeting lovely people as well. And everybody is a character, and everybody has got a story and a tale, and it's beautiful.
Actually, just one question I didn't ask you. It could be interesting. I know your mother played and your grandmother played, but was there many other female musicians in your area growing up?
There was. Did you say that again?
You mentioned that your mum played and that your grandmother played.
Yeah, on both sides.
On both sides.
Yes.
And did you see many other female musicians in your area?
Well, my sister Bridie played the whistle as well, and we had a girl over the road from us, Peggy Reardon, and she was a nice whistle player as well. And I haven't met that girl for years and years, and there wouldn't be that many females playing at the time now. But I was lucky enough, there was always people calling to the house, and there was a man back the road, he did a lovely style of flute playing. Patsy Moloney, he did a very unique style. He was a very sweet player, you know. But yeah, we're lucky enough to have enough to keep us going, you know.
Did Ciarán McMahon ever come down to your area to do any recording?
He did, but to be before my time, yeah, he did.
Oh yeah. Must check it out and see if we've got any recordings from West Limerick up.
Yeah.
Maybe some of those people you've mentioned might be interesting to see.
Yeah, there was the Molonies there, and I think Julie Clifford, and they played in the Star of Munster and the very old Cayley band, the Star of Munster. So there'd be something like now. Ciarán McMahon could have done something with that time, you know.
And there's Moloney's up in Galway. You said you might be connected.
Yeah,
to Eddie Moloney.
It's funny. I was up in Westport one time, and I met Sean Moloney, which would be Eddie's son. And it was the first time we met him. We were in the pub and we playing music, and then we got chatting, and he said, "I heard your name is Moloney," and I said, "Yeah." And I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Sean Moloney." So then I knew Eddie, his father, but I didn't know Sean. But Sean told me the story that his people came out of West Limerick back around my area somewhere many years ago. And I think they headed up to Laois or somewhere, and then I think they finished up in Galway then. So that was the story with them.
And you met Eddie over in London?
I didn't know. The first time I met Eddie, it was a good friend of mine, Tom Cushion, that plays with the Shashkin Kelly band. And Eddie used to play with him, but Tom comes from not too far from me at home, in Broadford he's from. But he used to bring Eddie Moloney down, and we'd have sessions in the pub, and that's where I first heard Eddie's flute playing. And I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Very unique style again. A beautiful flute player. And he had a nice, I suppose, East Galway, maybe over that way, but a lovely style of flute playing. And that was another great influence for me as well, actually.
Another great character. The news just kind of broke this morning. Seamus Tansy's passed away.
Exactly.
Have you any memories about Seamus?
I have great memories of him in Buncrana in 75, I think, and 6. And also Listowel, and many session with him. And he was a fine flute player, Seamus. A fine flute player. God rest the man. And he was a character. A nice man. Seamus was a nice man.
Yeah.
He was a character, but he was a fine flute player anyway. I know that.
Yeah. When you were kind of coming up through the ranks,
I'd be around that kind of there that time. Yeah. That'd be Seamus would be before me, but I would know all that Seamus now, and of course Matt Malloy, another fine flute player, Roger Sherlock. You had all them boys, you know.
Were you into, back in the day, were you into like buying records and stuff like that?
I would. That was my little thing on a Saturday afternoon when I'd finished work. I'd go straight to the music shop, no matter what town I was in, and I'd find out what was the latest. But they'd be the LPs, like, but then of course the new stuff started coming out then, like to see the cassettes, and now you've got all tiny stuff now with lots of music on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should look forward to hearing something new. But that was my trip on a Saturday afternoon to the music shop. Yeah, another recording, yeah. And it was a lovely feeling. Then you'd be learning more tunes. You hear that tune, I like that one. I'm playing that the next time I go out. That's what it was all about, yeah.
Can you remember, was there any records you bought that ever had like a big impression? You were like, wow, that's amazing music? Or?
Well, there was. I remember getting the first time playing the Roger Sherlock and Sean Maguire and the LP, and it was like a purple front on it, and the picture. And I put it on. It was lovely, heavenly music, a lovely lift to it. And like a different sound again, you know, the toning was lovely. And of course the great ones then from Matt Malloy and Seamus Tansey. They put some great stuff down as well, you know. But you could go on and on and on about great musicians. And another one that stands out as well is Joe Burke and Andy McGann. Paddy O'Brien, the great Paddy O'Brien from Nena, wonderful musician. And then you had an old hill, Tony Lennon, another good favourite one of mine. So there was some great stuff came out like. But they would be the ones I'd be hearing, you know.
And you've made a couple of albums yourself over the years. What made you decide to put some of your music down on tape?
It's a funny story, you know. As I said, John Regan, my good friend, from '78, from that tour. And every time we meet at the Flag, we'd sit down outside for hours and hours. And we leave and we'd shake hands. And we'd both say, we must put something down, which is the great saying, of course. And that's gone on for years and years. And then suddenly he said, come on, we have to do something. So then I did a recording then with John that was Over the Bog Road. And then I did a solo one, which is The Temple in the Glen, which should be Temple Glen Town. And that's how that started. He says, come on, you get a kick up the backside if you don't. So that's how that started.
What do you think is important in the music that we should try and preserve and pass on?
Sorry?
What do you think is important in the music that we should preserve and pass on?
Well, that's a good one now, but I would just hope that, well, for a start, there are some fine young musicians, and it's in safe hands. I do know that. I've been listening to flute players from 10 years of age, and some of them are frightening. They're lovely. Concertinas, pipers. So it's in good hands, and I hope they'll keep what we had and our people before us, and I'm sure they will. They're well capable anyway of doing all that. And I hope it stays like that, but I think at the moment it's quite healthy.
Do you think, has the music, you know, from when you were kind of growing up, the kind of music you heard growing up in West Limerick and what you heard then over in London and Manchester back in the day, is there a difference? Is the music changing or anything like that?
Well, it's getting better and better, and you'll find new things every day. You'll hear a record or hear a tune. There's always something nice in there, but it's definitely up, without a doubt. Yeah.
Did you ever compose any tunes yourself?
I did. Yeah, quite a few. Yeah.
Are they on the albums?
There's I think maybe 3 of them on the Temple and the Glen, yeah. But I have lots, and I must stick them on a book, you know, jigs and reels. Yeah, somebody get a hold of them, so let them play them.
Oh yeah, is it just the music in West Limerick now? You spent half the year in West Limerick. Is there a lot of music there now? Is it strong?
Yeah, I'd say it's stronger. There is millions of young musicians, and they're all fine musicians. God bless them. They're all good. So that's going to be kept there as well. You know, that I'd say will never die. You know, like in every county you'll get a little pocket everywhere, but that's the stronghold of it anyway. Around Tibbiglantern, Ard, Corrie, Mount Collins, all around there. Newcastle West, Abbeyfale, and then you have Limerick City, and then you have the East Limerick and other fine crowd of musicians. So yeah, it's healthy enough.
And would you have any advice for younger musicians now learning the music and how to go about it? Or?
Well, I suppose the first thing you'd have to do anyway is find your place and find your tempo and your time, and take a nice and study and basically get the foundation right first, and then you can do a bit of garnishing then to wherever it comes. But you must get the tune first, like, and get it right. And you can do a little bit with it then. I don't agree to go too far out with the tune, stay around the area, you know, because some good man put it together, so you can't take that away from him, you know. That'd be the advice I would give to some young musician now.
Great stuff. What's your plan for the rest of the time in Milltown?
Well, I was going to be going up around Kilfenora, but I don't know. I'll probably stay here now till Monday and head down into Limerick Monday. And then I'll be heading back to Newcastle West, the Munster Flyers on, so. And then I suppose Drumshambo and then Mullingar.
You're on tour for the summer.
Yeah, that's for sure, yeah.
Back at it again after that
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
quiet years.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Patsy, thanks very much for coming in to us.
Thank you.
And sure, that's it.
It's been an honour and it's been a glorious journey along the way for everybody, yeah.
Sound. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.